Good morning, everybody. I wanted to make a video to answer a question that Aaron has asked me, Aaron from Stroke TV. He asked in social media about what I think about people possibly making 100% recovery from strokes. So, like most of the questions I'm asked, there's no cookie cutter, clear cut answer. This answer is going to be all different for everybody. So, let me share a couple things. So, one, I think possibly when people label things 100% recovery, it may put a lot of pressure on people because when you have a stroke or any kind of illness, I went through an illness and I've never have been what I was before I was very ill, but I'm better and I do my everyday activities. I get a little more tired I've been more fatigued than I ever was before I was sick. This was, a few years back. Does that mean I'm not 100% recovered? Do I need that label? So you may have had a stroke and you're still trying to get things back. Of course, everybody's in this struggle of stroke, in your stroke recovery of all different levels of trying to walk, stand, move, the foot, the hand, the leg, the arm, everything. Dizziness, lack of sleep. There's so many vast dynamics that go on with strokes, and most of you guys are completely different with your own body and brain trying to come back. So I would think, how do I put this? Let's try maybe to not have that 100% massive label on you, because even when people get into recovery, they're back to their work, they're back to driving, they're back to pretty much doing everything they did before the stroke. Most likely, they never feel like the person they were before the stroke. So in somebody's case of a story like that, they're back to driving, they're back to work, they could do pretty much everything they did before the stroke. They may not feel like the same person. They may think a little different. They may still get tired, but not so tired that they can't go to work or do their job. But they're like a new 100%. They're a new person. I don't know if you ever go back to the exact same as you were before your stroke. So in the person's case like that, do you want to label them they're 100% back to normal? They're doing pretty much doing their whole thing they used to do before the stroke, but they feel different. So do they label themselves 99% or 90% recovered? So my point of saying just that, I know what people mean when they ask the 100% though, getting back to everyday life. But depending on where you're at, sometimes that may be just too much pressure on someone. So it's like saying everything's right, everything's wrong, everything's black, everything's white. The label makes things harder, but not to judge anybody who uses that. I'm just putting that out there for those at that level of their recovery. Don't make it feel like you failed because you're not feeling like you did before your stroke. Because I don't know if anybody who's had a stroke ever feels like the same person they were before their stroke. And that doesn't mean you failed. That doesn't mean you are lacking as an individual person anymore. So you're floating on 80% of who you were. And this is talking about people who's pretty much did everything back in their life, but they don't feel like the same person. And then on the other hand, people want to get their arms back. So of course they're not 100%, if you want that title, because their arm can't move. So I get what the question's asking, but also be careful on where level you are to judge it with labels, because that messes with our heads more, our mindset, our thinking, to always feel like you're not enough. Okay, so let's go to the mass majority of everyone going through this. Your foot's still turned out. You're numbed in your arm. You're still getting pain. Your arm doesn't move. All the big physical things you're still challenging. So my answer do I believe anyone can get 100%? And is that just I think how he asked, is that just a myth or just like a like a fantasy in their heads, or I'm not sure I forget how he worded it. So in recovery, if you just do therapy like 2 days a week and you don't do anything at home, or if you're kind of like, I didn't do my exercises at all yesterday, I didn't feel like it, you probably don't, you're not giving your body and your brain a chance to make the massive recovery you can get. So I'm going to take the 100% out of the question and just the max that your body's going to go. And you don't know. So in my first book, which has now been re-out, called Dear Stroke, You Suck, The Journey of a Fitness Trainer and Stroke Survivor. This was a 68-year-old artist who had a stroke. And he went through 6 months of being in the hospital and then being out of the hospital, having a couple months therapy, going, to therapy from his home. He's able to go home and be driven to therapy. So he had 6 months of that recovery time before I met him. And by the time I met him, and he had massive therapy, and I think he had pretty good therapists too. He was still at that point, he was using a walker and a cane. When I met him, he walked into the gym with a walker. And then the next few visits, he always had someone with him. He had this neighbor's kind of a big guy would come with him. And then he started bringing the cane and having the man with him. So, but he couldn't even sit down on an exercise ball without slithering down the ball. So he didn't have the core strength and the ability to hold his body up on something maybe slightly unstable. He couldn't remember my name for the first 3 months. And if I asked him, we would do certain exercises, and then he'd go, "Oh, is this new?" I was like, "No, we've done it every 3 days a week for the last month." But that's part of his progress. But that did not make him give up. So he literally came to the gym 6 days a week. The gym was only open 6 days a week. I was with him training 3 days a week, but since I worked 6 days a week myself, when he was at the gym, I would go talk to him. I would guide him and say, "Don't do this and do that." So on his own, he walked on the treadmill. And he worked on some of the things he did with me, but some of the exercises he was not safe to do without me by his side. But he would do what he could every single day. And at home, he would do everything he could. And way down the line, 3 years post-stroke, he was still making more steps. We were thinking everything's fine. And all of a sudden, he'll go, "Oh, those numb spots I get, those numb spots I get in my legs, I have in my legs, they just went away." And all of a sudden, 3 years post-stroke, the numb spots that were still in his leg, just like that, went away. In the middle of us working out, he said, "They're just gone." And then the next few weeks, as he worked on different exercises, his balance had to be a little more challenged again, because now his brain was working on balancing on the Bosu balls. When he'd stand on the Bosu balls, holding onto the bar, or without. He was able to do it without. Now his brain had to adjust balancing with the sensation of feeling the parts of the legs he didn't used to feel. So my point of sharing that is, in recovery, as you get results, and it could be a little result, you might just go, "My pinky is doing this." And if someone was training with me and they said, "My pinky does this now," when it didn't move the week before, I would say, "Let's focus on that hand. That hand's trying to come back. Let's give you more things for your hand. It's ready for more things." And in his case, we had to adjust his workout a little bit for safety issues as well, to make it for his brain to adjust to the new sensations he's now feeling in his body. It has to bring into his balancing system and the awareness of where his body is in space. So before that, his body compensated, and his whole being compensated on balancing, exercise, walking, with parts of his leg feeling numb. Now all of a sudden he feels it. So we had to switch up his workout. We had to switch up his safety. And it was quite intriguing, because I've never had such massive experiences in the moments with someone. But this man was with me when he was doing, his hand, he could use his hand. He can use it at this point, but he didn't feel the stuff. Like if I had him hold on to something, like if we're doing an exercise and he needed to hold something, he knew he was holding it, and he had control of holding it, but he did not feel the touch of it. And he didn't feel the touch of a cold bottle of water or a hot, warm cup. In the middle of working out together, he just goes, I feel my hand. I go, what? He goes, and that's when he said, and I didn't really even know he had that part going on because he didn't express that part to me. I thought his hand's working. I had no idea he wasn't feeling his hand on something. It was just a conversation we did not have. Or we didn't express, because you share so much with the person working with you in order for me to help a survivor when I'm with them carry on their next step in recovery. What's new? What's changing at home? What can you do now? If you say your pinky hurt, your move, let's go to the hand, like I was saying. But when he said that in the middle of a workout, he goes, yeah, I always knew I was holding on to the Bosu ball, but I never felt it. So we got up and I had him get a cold water out of the cooler. He puts the water, he goes, I feel the coldness now. Never felt it since my stroke. And that was, I would say, 2 years post-stroke. So the thing is, he never stopped exercising. He never gave up. He's a perfect example. That's why he wanted his story he wanted his story in a book to help inspire people, because he knew how hard the struggle was, and he knew if any part of his story can help just one person, he wanted it shared. That's why that book came out. But these little stories are in there. And I'm not trying to sell the book right now. It is a good story though. But my point is, he was a perfect example of someone that every single day, whether he made it to the gym or not, in fact, he rarely missed a workout. He would miss a workout with me if he had a doctor's appointment. And once a month, there was a stroke recovery group, an hour and a half away, support group his wife wanted him to go to. So he had missed for that because he had to pretty much take the whole day. So anyway, but he never gave up. We communicated so well. He would come in and say, you know what? Yesterday I was putting on my shoe and I did it quicker. Or I walked across the room and I turned around easier. If you're with someone working with you and you take note of just little things, like, anything. I held the fork better last night. Anything like that with your therapist or trainer, if they have the knowledge and the connection with their clients and to work with them, they will say, really? You can do that now? Okay, let's take your workout and change it up, because you need to follow your recovery with what your brain's recovering with. So that's a different progress of someone in their recovery as well. So, for instance, I had a man, and this was a surprise to me because I've never met a stroke survivor with this. And some of you who've heard my stories or seen videos, you may have seen him in some of the videos, and you may have heard this story, but some of you may be hearing this for the first time. Okay, 86-year-old stroke survivor in a wheelchair. His one arm blue. I have never seen a blue body part. It made me look like it was dead. I was like, I don't think I can help that. So, and it didn't move. No movement whatsoever. All he would just put it in his shirt and put it out. He was over a year post-stroke at that time. Yeah, over a year post-stroke, nearing 2 years. I can't remember where he was. But over a year for sure. He had his therapy with a therapist, and he had a hand therapist, supposedly a hand specialist, come to his house once or twice a week. All of them said, your arm will never move. Your arm will never be the same. So I didn't focus on the arm at first. And I usually don't. My main focus is get that core strong, upright. Because remember, if you're trying to get arm recovery back and you're here, where your nerves come out right here from your spinal column and your spinal cord to send messages down your arms and fingers from the brain communicating. If you're like this, it can compromise the communication of the spinal cord and the brain to send messages to your arms. Plus, you have muscles in your shoulder blades that your arms attach to, and you got to get your shoulder blades moved first. So that's in my videos, and that's in my books, to educate you guys as much as you can, because sometimes people are limited by the lack of education of themselves, the lack of education of the professional with them. So that's just another way to help you guys get through this. So anyway, as he's got better and he could stand up taller, and his core got a little stronger to stabilize himself when he stood up, we started to get a little movement in the arm. And then we started working with the shoulder blades and different things. And in time, his arm wasn't blue anymore. It looked like a normal arm. And I still haven't been able to train him since the COVID. His doctor says you're not leaving the house till the COVID's over. So I almost have not seen him probably 6 months. Talk on the phone sometimes. Right before the COVID started, his pinky started moving. He could do this a little bit, grabbing the bar. He was able to swing his arm and do some of these things. But each time he came in and there was a new something going on, I'd say, all right, we're going to do this now. And I go get something to work on what the new thing is. As we were still doing the other things, possibly if we still could, depending on the time of, the visit and everything. But if someone's hand's coming alive or coming back, I'm not going to ignore that hand and just do a cookie cutter. Let's do this for every stroke. If somebody's hand's coming back, let's focus on what we can do in this part of the body and your arm at the same time to bring it back. So that's just a way of telling you guys, how far can you go in your recovery? I don't know. It will depend on all those aspects. It will depend on if you're with me or you're with your therapist and they, giving you some exercises. Well, if you do them like once a day, but sometimes that's all you can do. It depends on your level, when how mobile or immobile you are, all the challenges. But most likely just doing your therapy one time a day, especially, so wait a minute. If that's all you can physically do because that you're still in the hospital or you're weakened and you can't do more, I'm not telling you guys it's your fault, do more. What I'm saying is, if you have the ability, like if someone gives you certain exercises or put your hand on like I have a balance disc, they have prongy things on the back. I have people press their hand on it to kind of stimulate the nerves in their hands. Well, if you're able to, do that 5 times a day. Do it as you're sitting. Do it when you watch TV. Don't just say, oh, I did my therapy for 20 minutes and go sit around the rest of the day. Your body won't come back as much with less activity, if you're able to do the activity. So I'm not judging your levels. I'm talking all different levels here. So each thing I say may pertain to certain people at their levels. So I'm not judging anybody. So, because I know sometimes when you're sick or you're in your recovery, you just can't do things. You just can't. It's not because you're like, I don't want to. You just can't. And that does not mean you're bad. That does not mean you're failing. That's where you are at the time. But there are times you're like, I just don't feel like getting up to do it. But you can really get up and do it still. But then there's times you feel that way and you just can't. And so, again, not judging where you're at, just putting the knowledge out there. So there is a man I spoke to. He does, oh God, I always forget the name of the talk. He does great talks. He has a stroke show. And he has really great videos, like an hour-long interviewing people. He's in Australia. He interviewed me from there a couple years ago. And he said when he was in the hospital getting his therapy, they came in once a day to do his physical therapy with him. But he said, I knew I could do it 3 more times that day, but they didn't give him that option. So some people in recovery can only do things once. It's all they got. Some people can do it twice. Some people do it 3. So listen to your body, listen to your gut, be safe, and keep trying to do things. And if you're trying something, if you learn something from a really knowledgeable person and you're doing, well, it's been 2 weeks, no change. I don't suggest just skipping that. Keep going, because you may have to do that for 3 months before you see a change. And someone over here may have done it for a week and they see a change. It depends on your brain. It depends on your body. It depends how you're nourishing your brain. Are you eating McDonald's? Are you drinking sodas? Are you eating potato chips? Are you eating crap? Are you not drinking water? That will affect your brain's ability to recover better. Drink your water. You do not want to be dehydrated. The effects of dehydration is the same as some of the symptoms of a stroke. Foggy, can't think clear, fatigue, cognitive skills. So if you're not drinking your water, your brain now is challenging being partially dehydrated and recovery from the brain. So give yourself 100% of what you know you need to do to help your recovery go the best it can. So I'll give you another quick example. When I've been doing this for over 25 years, in the whole fitness industry, different ages and weight loss, the whole package I do. So when I've worked with women who say they can't lose weight, they've done everything they can, I think it's my hormones, or I think it's my thyroid. Okay. And possibly that is part of the situation. Yes, that is some people's stories. But in my case, working with people, that was maybe 10% of the people. Most of the time, it's like, are you sure? Are you exercising every day? Well, at first I was doing 5 days a week. Now I'm just like doing 3. And on weekends, I give myself the freedom to eat. Well, that is not giving their body 100% to lose their weight for a long period of time to rule out, is the hormones really interfering? Is the thyroid really interfering? Or is it you kept yourself on a maintenance diet? So when it comes to throw that out there, because some of you guys may be women in that situation on top of your stroke. Okay. 5 days a week exercise for cardio is weight loss. And a lot of people, men and women, but I'll say women more right now, they will do gung-ho in the beginning of an exercise program 5 days a week or 6 days a week. They're exercising every day. Then they kind of slowly, when the times of weeks pass, they whittle themselves down. Maybe they're only exercising 3 days a week now. Well, 3 days a week is maintenance. So what happens when people go through that stage, all of a sudden, well, I think I've hit a plateau. I'm not losing weight anymore. Well, because you slowly merge yourself into a maintenance program, and your workout diet that you're doing for your package is your maintenance program. And you started your maintenance program 20 pounds before you wanted to get to your goal. So when it comes to recovery, think of a baby trying to learn to walk. They don't just get up and try to walk once a day. They're trying to stand up all day long. They're awake, and the mothers are trying to help them. And when they learn to walk and run, the mother's chasing them all over the place. They don't just do it one time a day. They will do it as much as their body can do it. So if you're having it, and again, it depends on your level, your safety, what's going on in your brain, or you're dizzy, what's going on with your meds. So I'm not saying my suggestions is for everybody at every level. But if you resonate at your stage of your recovery, it's like, yeah, I want to stand up better, but I don't go to my pole and try to stand up maybe twice a week. I don't do it all day long. Maybe I do it twice a week, maybe once a week. You're not going to build the ability to stand up. But if you're trying to stand up and you have the capacity to do that, the more you work on it, the more the brain will go, oh, I need to make pathways to these movements in your body. And now the muscles will also get strengthened in that movement. It's like if somebody who didn't have a stroke, they want bigger biceps. Well, if they just use a 3-pound weight once a week, they're not coming close to someone who's doing the biceps 3 or 4 days a week with a heavier weight. So what you put into it also will play what you get out of it. But sometimes it's not a personality or a mood blocking us. It's the stroke. It's the fatigue. So there are physical things you don't have control of that does interfere. But then there are things that you have control of and you're being lazy, or like, I don't feel like doing it. Or I know I should drink water, but I don't like water, so you don't. So the answer of this question of this long video is, I don't think you're going to get to your max of recovery for anybody if you don't put the effort in physically. I work with people physically, but also it's your mindset too, and how you think, and listen to your gut. So when I was working with that client, Gary, who's the story of the first book, we communicated really well. I would watch him walk. So this is another thing too. I do some clients on Zoom, and I interact with a lot of you guys, and I write all the knowledge I know in my books to help you guys, because I can't see what you're doing every day. When he walked into the gym every day, I would see his walking. I could see his foot not turned out as much. I would physically see his adjustments daily and weekly and how things change, and then I would adjust his workout. So, and I would see him sitting, and I go, "What? Don't sit like that," because he would sit with like his foot turned out and kind of all wonky. I'm like, "No, you need to sit upright and keep that foot turned in when you're sitting, because we're trying to fix your foot drop and turn out. You can't sit with your foot drop in that position." See, I'm not with him at home, but I could see what he was doing around the gym because he was there so much. So that was an opportunity for both of us that most survivors and most trainers or therapists do not get to see that. So that's when you have to watch yourself. Am I watching TV and putting my whole body in the position that I'm trying to fix, that I need fixed for walking? So you have to watch yourself daily. How do you sit? How do you walk? What are your sleeping positions? Because you don't have someone watching over you all the time. With the journey of my client, Gary, it was almost like it was just meant to be, because I learned so much working with him. And I was able to correct him on some habits. Like sometimes sometimes he'd come to the gym, just hang out for a couple hours, walk the treadmill, sit on. He didn't have anybody at home. His wife was at work. So it was almost like she would drop him off on the way to work, and then someone would take him home a few hours later. So he would just kind of be there for your community. And as he was able to walk better and get better results, he would walk up to other people he saw with stroke survivors and say, "You can get through this. Look at me." And he would always, and I see, so I hear and see you guys write sometimes about you feel like you're walking drunk or you're talking drunk. And he used to tell people, I'm not drunk. I had a stroke. I talk funny, because he felt himself talking as if he's slurring, as that he drank too much. I thought he talked fine, but I don't know how he talked before the stroke. So only you guys know, and your people in your intimate life, how and who you were before your stroke. When therapists and trainers or people like in my case meet you guys, we don't know who you were before, or how, we can talk and we can share, but we literally didn't see it. So, yeah. So anyway, so I hope this maybe helps answer the question. You have to put in what effort you're able to. You have to be safe with your effort. Yes, the support system at your home makes a difference sometimes too, because if you have this, like Gary, he had his sister and his brother-in-law and his neighbor. They just grabbed him and impacted him, and he laughed and he giggled with them, and I know that helped. But I do know sometimes at home with him and his wife, there were some issues. And we did not put this in the book. It's very personal to his story. But he would come in sometimes and could be just wiped down out of it. Like, what's going on? And we would spend, probably through the 3 years I knew him, there's maybe 10 sessions. We actually went outside and walked to the park or the school nearby and walked back and chit-chatted. And I kind of worked on his walking ability and maybe had him do little things outside, but he needed to talk. Something was going on at home, and the stress was so much on him, it would make him almost take 10 steps back in his recovery. His fatigue would just kick in. So there's a lot of dynamics that play into everybody's situation. Like right now, there's the girl who has read my books, watched my videos. She's in her 40s. She just said on Facebook that she now is able and allowed to take care of her grandkids on her own. Well, I've got chills just telling you that. That's a big progress for her. But she every day does her stuff. She's gung-ho and she's working on her things. And it was cute because she said, "I owe it to you, Tracy," which is very sweet. That's what I want first when I try to help people. But you could only get as far, one challenge is you only get as far as your body and brain will allow. But if you don't put your 100% of effort, I hate that word 100%, but as much as you can that day into your recovery, it can go against you. So, and it's hard because you have the fatigue, you have the tiredness, you have the lack of sleep. Some of you guys don't have that part. Everyone's different, but I think most of you guys get the fatigue. I can relate to the fatigue. I was very ill for a few years back between 2008 and 2010 or 11-ish. They didn't know what was wrong with me. I was on 22 rounds of antibiotics in that case. And 3 different occasions I had to go to the doctor at different points during that and get a shot in my butt of a specific antibiotic 7 days in a row. That I had to do it 3 times during that journey. And I already have hearing loss. The side effect to that medicine was hearing loss, so I got worse. So I'm almost deaf in one ear. I wear hearing aids. And I'm fatigued a lot. So I don't get the fatigue like you guys do. I'm not sure. We all get our own fatigue, but I'm tired a lot. And I just keep working through it. It's just who I am now. I worked through it. Would I have been that way at this age anyway? I don't know. Was it because of then? I think so, because I've never been who I was before I was ill. There's a new me. So does that mean I'm not 100% better? Probably not. Probably. I don't know. I try not to label it. I just have to get up every day, do what I need to do, and keep moving forward with it. But if I didn't exercise at all and I ate real crappy, I would probably be a very sick woman right now. My back pain would be massive. I would probably be kind of crippled because I have scoliosis. So I do everything I can that I know to work against the bad stuff my body wants to do. So that's how it is in stroke recovery. That's why I always say knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you have a chance to move forward. If you're constantly looking for a quick fix and cookie cutter stuff, you probably won't move forward as quickly unless your body just recovers quickly. And and that's great. But if you watch my videos and learn more, you will get probably little more recovery in things because it makes sense. You know what muscles, what the nerves are doing, what posture is important. So if somebody like me or somebody you know is very knowledgeable puts a video out with knowledge of muscles and exercises, and they're talking to you like this one, someone may say, oh, her videos are so long, I don't want to hear her talking. Well, then you may stop yourself from learning something for you. Have a little more patience. I usually get very nice remarks and comments with my videos, but randomly I'll get someone going, can you just stop talking and get to the point? Can you just show the exercises already? I'm like, well, I don't believe people with that mindset will get as far in their journey, because if you just want to copy an exercise because someone did it, oh, I'm going to do this for 5 days. Oh, I'm not better. Forget it. I'm moving on to the next thing I find. You probably won't get your recovery. If you understand the knowledge, muscle movement, what muscles do what, like I try to teach you guys, you'll be able to rule out what exercises, or someone's like, yeah, that's stupid, I'm not going to follow them, they don't know anything. Or you'll go, oh, I bet I can do that. Because so the more knowledge you have, the more you can direct your own self when you don't have a trainer or therapist with you too. And it will also help you choose a professional that has the knowledge that can help you. So in the case of my man who was told his arm will never work again, well, was that because they didn't have the knowledge to help him get through it? I say that's probably the case. The lack of knowledge with the professional can limit you. And one more quick story. I was speaking at a stroke recovery group, that one that's an hour and a half away. I was speaking there a couple of years ago, and there was maybe 15 stroke survivors and their caregiver or spouses, whoever, one had her brother with them, whoever's with them was there. And this one young girl, I don't know if she's even 30. She was near 30 years old, late 20s, early 30s, not sure. She was in a wheelchair. Her brother was with her. And we usually start the meeting off with everybody just kind of saying a little positive or negative, whatever, journey had happened in the past, since the past meeting. And she said, and we all got tears in our eyes, she was in her wheelchair, I was just told today that I'm never going to be able to go back to my apartment and live. Now, I don't know if she lived on a second story. I don't know if she wasn't capable of living alone. I didn't get to know her that well. But that was very sad, and she was so young. And so as we shared our stories and went on, I don't have my ball in here. I have a ball that I have people exercise with. If you watch my videos and my books, you'll see. One exercise that I have people do is we take a ball, we put between our knees, and you squeeze, and that helps work the legs, holding for stability. That helps bring the leg back in from leg turnout. So when my speaking there was speaking muscles and physical recovery, and I brought some items for them to work with just to kind of let them feel things. So I had a bag of those balls, passed them all out. She sat there and she did the one basic exercise with the ball. But it may be basic, but it is very powerful and a very important exercise for leg stability, leg strength, pelvic floor strength, and keeping that leg back in, because you got to work those muscles that pull the leg in. So she sat in her wheelchair and she squeezed the ball. She sat there and said, "This was the first time I felt my leg since my stroke." And I went, how is that possible? What is her therapist doing with her? This is a basic, common, important exercise. It wasn't like that's something that you had to study, extra studies all over to know there's muscles in the legs that hold the leg in. And I was just, I was blown away. So I haven't seen that girl. I always think about her. I know her brother bought my books. I know they were looking at the videos. I don't know how far she's gone. It's not a support group I speak at a lot. I've reached out to the leaders a few times. They haven't gotten back to me. But her whole life. So if she moved forward with someone who knows what to do, she could be walking again. Or maybe, her life is different. But right there is a perfect example that sometimes the professional can limit the person. And then there's another man there who's probably about my age. 50, I'm going to be 55 this year. So he's probably late 40s, early 50s at the time. He did that exercise and he went, wow, and he was just walking slow, thinking he's done pretty good in his recovery physically. But he moved kind of slow. He goes, I've never felt those muscles work. That's hard. It almost hurts. And I'm like, what are the therapists are these people under? Because I think he was 3 years or 4 years post-stroke. So that's just more examples of your recovery may be limited by the knowledge of your professionals or yourself or both. That's why I spend so much time in videos talking, showing muscles, showing them again, repeat, get them in your head. So when you're doing things, it makes sense why you're doing them, and it will give you hope. Because if you're just doing, for instance, you're trying to get your hand back, your hand's like this. What do? They give you something to squeeze. Well, your brain and hand already knows this. It needs to know the muscles that do that. So knowledge is power. And I don't know. I don't know if it's because of my journey I did with my survivor in the books, Your Stroke You Suck. That put my passion. It made me see how much lack of knowledge is in some trainers and therapists out there when I worked with him and the people I've worked since then with. And when I started this stroke recovery group, I started going in different ones. I started hearing everyone's stories. I'm like, wow, there's so much lack of knowledge out there. And you guys shouldn't have to have the knowledge because you should be able to trust the professionals do. But no, if you go get a trainer, you may get a trainer that can talk the talk. You can write anything on your card. I specialize in anything, just like that. And they just took a 1-day certification. And maybe they worked out the weights in the gym their whole life. They like to exercise. That knowledge is not going to help a stroke survivor. You need someone who understands understands movement, understands your posture needs to be in place to make your shoulders work. So think through your journey at this point. Do you have, and maybe you have a good therapist and a good trainer, but you're only doing this stuff with them. And when you come home, you don't want to do anything. I don't feel like it. I have an exercise in the week. Well, that may be kind of whatever when people are losing weight. But when it comes to recovery, that mindset will limit your recovery, just like it limits their weight loss. But you're trying to get movement back. You're trying to get your thinking clearer, your arms back, your hands back, maybe driving again if you can't drive. If you know you are capable of doing more things during the day and you just don't feel like it, you're like, I'll do it tomorrow, and you haven't exercised in over a week or 2 weeks, you will limit your recovery. It is a given. Just like if a baby's trying to stand up and walk. If it just tries to stand up and walk every Monday at 3 o'clock and doesn't do anything else until the next Monday at 3 o'clock, that baby probably won't walk till maybe it's 5 years old or ever. It's a daily, and your brain has to keep those neural pathways always trying to make the movement. The more you're trying to get a movement back, if you're physically able to do the exercise, to work on it, the more you work and repeat and try something, the more the brain's going to go, ooh, I can get messages there now. So anyway, I know this is long. My videos are always long, but there's so much information and stories. And somewhere in this, it's getting like 30, 40 minutes now. Somewhere in this, I may say one thing in here that can possibly change your recovery to be better. Maybe I said 10 things. So I hope you watch this video all the way through and replay it if you need to. So Erin, that's my answer to your question. And every time you ask me a question, there's no clear answer because you're on your own journey, your own brain, your own nutrition path. Remember, food is important. I've shared in stories and in interviews and in one of my books, I forget which one, about the man who shared with me the day after he eats a bunch of processed junky food, he has more numbness throughout his body from the stroke. The more clean he eats, vegetables, fruit, water, good eating, not a bunch of crap and candy bars and bread and McDonald's and just junky stuff. The more processed, icky food you eat, it could affect your recovery. Maybe not everybody's, but in this man's case, when he said he literally knew because he stayed connected, he checked in with his body every day, that feeling was worse on days he ate really bad the day before. You maybe have that stuff going on too, and most likely you do. And you may not feel it, but it's still happening inside. It's just like when people, they're becoming diabetic. Some people literally feel the sugar in their brain and get dizzy and they know, I can't eat sugar, I don't feel good. Some people don't have the symptoms and all of a sudden they're diagnosed with diabetes. Other people can know, hey, for some reason I get headaches when I drink a soda, or sometimes I get headaches at a candy bar or a piece of cake or something hot, sugary cereal, and they will stop eating it because they feel it. Some people do not feel it, but they're having the same symptoms of the sugar going high and low in their body. They just don't feel it. So you may be having food and nutrition challenges into your body in the recovery, but you don't feel it like this man did. Okay? So there you go. Again, like always, my videos are long and I've already said that before, but bear with it. Listen, I hope this helps somebody. Be good to yourself. Feed yourself well. You would not feed a baby trying to walk a cheeseburger and a soda. Never. You would follow what the pediatrician tells you to do. Take care of your body the same way. Okay? And good luck to you guys. Again, I have my videos all over YouTube to help with physical things. I have my books out there to help because I can't train everybody in person. I can't be there. I wish I could. And again, there's probably people out there better than me. I only have the knowledge that I am of my experiences, and there's always somebody I can learn from. I'm always learning new things. And so anyway, you guys, be good to yourself, be kind to yourself, be patient with yourself, and feed your body well. Okay? Bye.